Hey everybody, in this video we've got another 2024 battle. This time it's Bernie Sanders for the Democrats up against Rand Paul for the Republicans. This was suggested to me in the comments, so let's get into this one. And usually with Bernie Sanders, the big unknown for me is how much would he actively go up against the establishment and how much would they turn on him. That would affect a lot of these states, and it's hard to predict. I try to take a middle-of-the-road approach. I think Bernie is not quite as anti-establishment as he came off back in 2016 or maybe in 2020. I just don't think he's willing to rock the boat as much as someone who's supposed to be an outsider would. I generally think he would have a lot of populist economic appeal, but he might be painted as too far left. He's going to be called a socialist. Maybe that won't be as palatable in some of the suburbs. Maybe the media would turn on him. That's all possible. It's unknown. And with Rand Paul as well, I don't know how much he would go up against the establishment either. I assume a little bit. I assume he's going to be anti-war. I assume he's going to be more intellectual than someone like Donald Trump. He's going to probably pull in some of the libertarian vote and get a lot of the Trump base, but not all of them. So we've got a good battle here. Let's quickly go through the states. We'll start in Alaska. That is going to be over 10 points. Safe for Rand Paul. Hawaii, that's going to be very safe for Bernie Sanders. Back up to the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California. Those, of course, will be safe for Bernie. Now we've got Nevada. This is a state I think would go a little bit more for Bernie, especially in Clark County. And I have Bernie winning it by a lean margin, probably 1 to 2 points. Idaho, Utah, safe for Rand Paul. Arizona, I think Bernie would probably be viewed as a little bit too far to the left here for the suburbs. This was a red state up until not that long ago, and I think Rand Paul would win this by a leads margin, probably also 1 to 2 points. Montana, Wyoming, safe for Paul. Colorado, over 10 points, safe for Bernie. New Mexico, likely for Bernie Sanders. Back up to North and South Dakota, safe for Rand Paul. Nebraska at large, that's going to be safe for Rand Paul. The 2nd district, that's the Omaha district, it got a little bit redder after redistricting. This is a tough call. It seems like Bernie might be a little bit too fringe for this district. I think he could win it. I went back and forth, but I ended up settling on a tilt for Rand Paul. Kansas, Oklahoma, safe for Paul. Texas, over 5 points, likely for Paul. Minnesota, I think they could get down under 5 points, just barely, probably 4.5. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's 7 points, but it's going to go for Bernie Sanders. The next state is Iowa. That's tough to say, but I went with a likely for Rand Paul. Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, safe for Rand Paul. Let's cross the Mississippi River and go back up to Wisconsin. Here's a state Bernie Sanders I think would have done well in the past. In 24, going up against Rand Paul, I think it would be much closer, but in the end, I still settled on a tilt for Bernie. Illinois, safe for Bernie. Michigan, that's a state you'd think Bernie Sanders would do much better in, and I don't think it would be 10 points or anything like it might have been in the past, but I do have it going by a leans for Bernie Sanders. Indiana, that's going to be safe for Rand Paul. Rand Paul's home state of Kentucky is obviously going to be safe for him. Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, safe for Rand Paul. Let's go down to Florida. Bernie Sanders, he's probably going to be viewed as a socialist here, so maybe the margin gets over 10, but I also think Sanders is going to have some appeal with some voters there, and he's going to get out a lot of the young vote, and it would go for Rand Paul by a likely margin. Let's go to Georgia. Here's a state where Bernie Sanders might be a little bit too outside the mainstream in the Atlanta suburbs, and I think this state could come back to the Republicans, and I have it going to Rand Paul by a lean margin, low single digits. South Carolina, safe for Paul. North Carolina, that is going to be leans for Rand Paul, probably 4 to 5 points. But let's go to Ohio. That I still think will be likely for Rand Paul. West Virginia is going to be safe for Rand Paul. Let's go up to Maine at large. That's going to be likely for Bernie Sanders. The 1st district, safe for Sanders. The 2nd district, leans for Paul. Probably 4 to 5 points. Maybe it gets higher than that, but I left it at a leans. New Hampshire is going to be leans for Bernie. Bernie will get his home state of Vermont by a safe margin. Then we've got New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. Those are going to be safe for Sanders. Now we've got Pennsylvania. That is going to be leans for Bernie Sanders. And finally, the last state is Virginia. And in this matchup, I assume the D.C. suburbs, that heavy establishment area, is going to think Bernie Sanders is not what they're really looking for, and the margin would get down under 5 points, but Bernie still wins it by a lean margin. So there's your final map. That comes out to 275 for Bernie Sanders, 263 for Rand Paul. And this was a very close one. I think it's a good one to think about, and my confidence here is low. I think Bernie would get out a lot of that youth vote. Rand Paul would probably get out some of them as well on the Libertarian and Republican side. But at the same time, I think some progressives are a little bit disillusioned with Bernie. I think they wanted him to stand up more to the establishment in the past, and he didn't really do it. So that could cost him a little bit there. and who knows how the Rust Belt would go. Traditionally, Bernie would, I think, be a good candidate there, but now on a lot of cultural issues, I think the Republicans have an opportunity to make inroads. Rand Paul, maybe he's the right guy to do some of it, but I don't think he's really all that exciting. He might even be viewed as boring, and if he spends too much time only focusing on the federal budget and spending cuts, I don't really think that's going to help him. But I think Bernie would be a slight favorite here. I think in the South, Bernie would be weak. Maybe North Carolina goes likely. Maybe Maine's second goes likely. Maybe Wisconsin flips and goes to Rand Paul, or maybe it goes to Bernie by 5 points. There's a wide range of options here. I took a middle-of-the-road approach. One extreme would be if Bernie ran as the ultimate outsider, going up against the establishment, corporations, had a real populist cultural appeal, and everybody on that side was behind him all the way. Then I think he would do very well across these states. But on the other hand, if he goes against the establishment, corporations, and the media and the establishment completely turns against him and they view him as a threat, then they're going to come after him hard, and there's no question that would hurt him by a few points. I think the media is very powerful. They can really affect people's perceptions one way or the other. They're capable of smearing things they don't like, and Bernie, at least in the past, has been a threat to that establishment. He's been willing to push back on a lot of things, and that's given him a lot of grassroots appeal. So the turnout he would get, I think, is unknown at this point, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Rand Paul might activate some new voters as well, but I don't think enough for him to be able to win this election. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Rand Paul channels the Ron Paul energy, gets a huge boost of turnout, and he ends up flipping the Rust Belt and Nevada. Who knows? Maybe that's possible, but this is the map that I settled on. We'd also have to see who their running mate would be and the national environment. It would be great to see these two go at it and discuss all the current issues at the time, but let me know in the comments, do you mostly agree with this map, or do you have Bernie Sanders winning Iowa and Ohio, or do you have Rand Paul winning Michigan and Pennsylvania? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.